Hey everybody, I know I've got a little bit of mystery here, but I really want to share these with you one at a time because they are so cool. These are 3 roll and writes that I have played recently that just captured me, and they captured me for a variety of reasons, but the first one is that they're juicier. They're heartier, they're meatier than some of the other roll and writes and flip and writes that are coming out. These games take between 45 minutes and an hour to play, maybe even just a little bit longer if it's your first time playing. But what they do is remind me of the roll and writes that I like already. I like Fleet, the dice game. I like the Dice Charmers, which is the Rajas of the Ganges roll and write. I like Octadice. Now, these are games that create a lot more choice for players, and they have this kind of cascading effect. And the cascading effect is, I think, hard to balance, but all 3 of these games have a lovely theme, a lovely balance, a wonderfully exciting cascading effect, and I think you're going to just love them. Go! My favorite thing. My favorite thing. One of the things that you'll notice with this first game, but also with all the other games that I share, is that you are going to have 2-player sheets. And that means more stuff to do, more stuff to juggle, and more ways to win victory points. So 3 Sisters is a Kickstarter game that I backed, and I was super thrilled to get it because it seemed juicy. It seemed super interesting in the way it functioned, in the way that players gather those victory points, and it did not disappoint. So players are going to take a garden sheet, and then they're going to take another sheet that keeps essentially everything else that they need to track. There's going to be a small central board, some dice, and if you want to play with the advanced track here that adds just a little bit more strategy, you can. But this is it. It's not much space. I like that. I like this. You can even tell the box is much smaller. There are plenty of double-sided sheets that you get here. So they're color, they are just gorgeous, really clear, and super strong iconography and labeling. So on this central board, Edith, the gardener, is going to keep track of where you are on the rondel. And it's actually really beautiful because it doesn't look like a rondel, but it is. So it's very cleverly disguised with graphics that are just so thematic to this gardening theme that you have here. But it's just really cool and clever. And I love Edith. I love this giant figurine that she just stands there and goes around. But depending on the amount of players you have, you will roll a certain number of dice and place them out, starting with the lowest number, going higher, and having those duplicates stay in the same space. And those are going to activate those particular places. Players get to activate the space where they take the die from, but they also get to activate a garden space. And on your garden card, you have your 3 crops. Around the outside, you have your pumpkins. And I got really addicted to the pumpkins because when you do the pumpkins give you flower bonuses, which take you down to the perennials at the bottom, and every single different perennial gives you a specific bonus to go here and there and everywhere, and you can start to see the chain reactions that happen. So the pumpkins go around the outside of your entire garden, and then you've got the corn and the beans that go on the inside. And those are based on different regions. You have 6 regions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 around, and you've got to really manage where you're placing your check marks based on the die, but also based on that gardening phase. It's so cool, it's so fun, and the lowest number die that's not taken after each player takes a die gets activated for every player. So you get to just do that thing, and it comes with the action and a gardening phase. It's just so much. I love it. I love that there are 8 rounds and every round does this. Plus, you get a bonus action with your rounds. And so in the first round, you know you're going to get a shed action. Second round, you know it's going to rain, and rain activates all of your crops. It's just so fun and juicy. You find that Your first couple rounds might take a little bit longer as you're figuring out what all the things in the shed mean. There's a lot of actions here, a lot of opportunities to get immediate victory points, to get ongoing benefits, to get all sorts of stuff based on other things you've done. But there's just a lot here that is fun, it's exciting. Again, you have those chain reactions. I loved getting goods and selling goods. I thought that was a fantastic element or aspect to the game. And it's just continually around the rondelle based on the amount of dice that you roll for the amount of players in the game. And there's even this extra, complexity added with the advanced weather track, which so thematic, so stinking cute. I think Three Sisters is a phenomenal way to jump into a juicier roll and write game today. All right, as you can see, a little bit more going on here than Three Sisters when it comes to components, but still not that much. Players are going to have 2 sheets. These are both front and back, and their color, very nice. Same amount of player sheets here as you get in Three Sisters. Fantastic. It has everything you need. You've got your map on one side, and then all of that DNA that you're going to collect to build those dinos that are at the bottom. And then you've got essentially the action side down over here. When you run your park, you're going to get your attraction bonuses, your specialist bonuses, your dino tour, excitement, death toll. And then at the bottom is just space for you to do your final scoring. Now out here in the center, you've got these particular places you're going to place the dice that you draft. Now I love the drafting in this game after the dice are rolled. On the sides here, you've got some more opportunities to grab some of those specialists, and over here you can buy some of these buildings. Now, the really cool thing too is look at this deck. There's a ton of these in here. Guess what? For every game, you just draw 3. That's it. You have an entire stack of cool buildings that can be in any game. Same thing over here with these extra specialists. Just a ton of cool specialists that you can activate in a particular game. And then of course, you probably can't see them because I've got them in here. But these are the dice. And check out these dice. These are so big and chunky. I mean, look at them. And they're all yellow, but they have some iconography on here, which might include things like building roads, gathering coins, getting those DNA so that you can build your dinos. And then you might see some attractions like a merch stand, a ride, or a food shack. And then the last thing you're going to see are these threat dots. Threat dots are the little red dots that show up. And the cool thing about those is you only count threats on the remaining die. So what you're going to do is draw dice from the bag and roll them based on the amount of players you have, which allows there to be 1 die remaining after everyone drafts. And when you draft dice, you draft Catan setup style. So the first player is going to draft, it's going to go around, and then the last player is going to draft again, and it'll come back around to the first player. And there's going to be 1 die left. Everyone gets what's on that die, which is a cool thing, right? Because it gives you cool stuff, but you also get the threat that's on there. So there's this really interesting strategic move you make as the player who might be responsible for giving everyone 3 threat, including yourself. So if you can handle it, if you can mitigate it, it might be a really strong move to do something like that. But it might also behoove you to kind of keep the threat low whenever you take that die, because there are so many other ways to get threats, like building your dinos and how dangerous those dinosaurs are. So this game is super fun. You have 3 rounds essentially, and in the first round you draft your dice and get what's on the dice, and then you will place the die out on this board. You'll do that twice before you run your park. And when you run your park, that's when you get all your cool stuff. Meanwhile, you're building on this map over here all these different buildings and all of these different pens to hold your dinosaurs, and you connect everything with roads. And roads make sure that you can create a really exciting dino tour that starts at your HQ and goes to hopefully one of the exits. There are 6 possible exits, but you can only run a dino tour 3 times in the game. So that means you've really got to be selective about what buildings you connect and how you run your dino tour and how you're actually scoring those. So there's a whole lot of choice here. There's a whole lot of excitement. The thing that I find most compelling is the dice selection, but then also the action board. When you play your die down, you play a die on an action. It doesn't matter what's on the die anymore except for the threat value. You take the action, make up to 4 dinosaurs. Well, when you make dinosaurs, you just follow the making dinos step on the sheet. Mark new dinos, mark spent DNA, make new paddocks, increase threat, gain excitement. Because dinos bring excitement. That's your action, but now that space is blocked. If a player wants to go on that space in the same round, they can place their die on top of it, but when they place it on top, they look at the die they're covering and they must take that much threat. So it's a way to kind of prevent people from wanting to go in spaces because it's really scary to go there. It's going to raise your threat level and you're going to have to really amp up your security, which is a thing for sure. You've got to have good security. But I like that there's a cost. So if someone goes in a space, they don't block it forever. They just make it a little riskier for you to go there. Everybody can have access to these specialists that are here. You have specialists on your board. Everyone starts with a security chief, a tour guide, and a junior scientist. And then the same thing over here, you've got these buildings, but then there are also basic attractions. And it's just really fun. You get to very freeform, very creatively design your dino pen, your dino attractions, your roads, your first aid huts, and all sorts of stuff in this dinosaur park, right? You're like doing your Jurassic Park. I think there's a lot to like about this. And it's a shorter version, but it kind of condenses all the bits and pieces down to just your player board, 10 dice, 3 cards, and a central action area. It's just Dinosaur Island, but it's smaller and I like it. And I absolutely adore saying Dinosaur Island rawr and right. I just love it. And I don't even think I mentioned the name in the very beginning. I feel terrible. I didn't even introduce it to you. But yeah, this is Dinosaur rawr and right. And I just really, really like it. All right, moving on to my third juicy roll and write. It is Hadrian's Wall. This is it. They have 2 sheets, just like the other 2, and both sheets are huge comparatively. And this is the stack, right? This is the giant stack of those player sheets. You will take 1 of each of these to keep track of all of your stuff, and holy cow, is this overwhelming. This is the hardiest of all 3 of these roll and writes, and I think that first time through definitely takes a long time because you have to figure out what every last section means and the implications of everything on here, which can be incredibly overwhelming, and it's a lot to juggle. So this is the most complex, most time-consuming of the roll and writes in this video. But there's so much to like about this. It's incredibly rewarding. It offers you that cascading effect, and it just is so puzzly. It is a puzzly game. It's the least interactive game of the 3 as well. There's a lot of that kind of interaction with the 3 sisters, taking dice and drafting them before somebody else can do that. With Dinosaur rawr and right, you're drafting dice and placing actions to block people. A lot of player interaction there, just enough, not too much, because in those games you also have your own area that you're, growing all of your vegetables, or you're building your dinosaur park. Well, in Hadrian's Wall, you're checking boxes. That's like all you're doing is just checking boxes. And you're gaining those particular benefits. So the way to kind of talk about this without teaching you the game is to maybe talk about the parts of it that work really well and maybe the overall gist. Because I'm not teaching you the game here. I'm telling you that you need to learn the game and you will really enjoy this game because I find it to be just juicy enough to challenge a player, to offer that puzzling aspect to a game and just be so rewarding. So what happens in this game is players are going to receive a certain number of pawns that are color coded, and these pawns are going to come to your area and be the workers that you place out to do certain things in the game. Players will draw 2 of their cards, one of which to play for the bottom left corner of resources. Players get to choose 6 path cards. There are 6 rounds in the game, and that path is going to give them an opportunity to score victory points at the end of the game. You don't have to, and they're really, really hard to do, and they give small points, and you can get really close to the next stage and just not get it and still get just the lower amount of victory points. But it's another way to earn points, and it's just cool. I like it. I like the fact that these 2 cards you choose between do 2 very different things based on what you're doing with it in that very, very first round. That's the first thing you do. So I've got all these different workers here that I'm going to put on my board because I got from my card, and I also got from the card that was played out to start the round. At this point, every player plays in utter silence and by themselves until they feel like they have allocated all of their resources to check off as many boxes as they legally can. And at that point, you just end the round and get ready for the next round. So this game is kind of just a solitaire game that you get to play with other people. And that's okay because some games are like that. It obviously makes it a really great solo game, so you can play this by yourself, super easy, and just kind of like relax into the time that you need to spend to play this game. So it says on the box it takes an hour. That means that every round you're spending about 10 minutes for each round. So if that kind of helps you keep track of your time, that's probably what you're going to do. Now, you might actually be spending more time on certain rounds. That's okay. There's sometimes more things to do on a round than other previous rounds. And that's just because you are going down a particular path. For example, I fought with some gladiators. I was able to really put a lot of my efforts into the performance track. And if you're looking at these patrons, these people down the side, you've got traders is your blue path. And then they go all the way across the top of the board, color-coded for blue. So when you trade, you obviously can go to the market. Yay, that's a really good thing. Performers are pink, and they have the theater and the gladiators. Priests are purple, and they give you temples and gardens. Apparitores are kind of like your culture bathhouse people, if that's a thing. They give you baths and courthouse. And then lastly, patricians, diplomats, and scouts. And so you've got each of these tracks, and you essentially need to gain a certain level in the track, which goes 1 to 9, to activate the flags on the side that has a minimum requirement. So for example, if I go on the performers track and I mark through with a yellow, I have a yellow worker, I can place that to the side, put a check mark in the first box. Guess what? I gained a blue worker. So now I add that blue worker to my board, and I can go over and mark off the theater if I have a blue worker, a purple worker, and a stone. So I pay those, and now I mark off the theater. And I can go to each one of those theater stages once per round and get the cool benefit in that row. But I still have to pay a stone every time I want to go there. Well, fortunately for me, I have a stone left, but I also have all these other workers. So this game can just send you down a rabbit hole, and you really do have to focus. If you try to do everything on this board and everything on this board, you're going to probably fail miserably. There has to be a focus, and you have to kind of figure out, okay, what can I do? How can I get the most points? And you're probably wondering at this time, where are the victory points? Well, the victory points are over here on this other board in renown, piety, valor, and discipline. And so you're going to get victory points based on how far you go in each particular track. And each track is going to give you anything inside of that white square. You see a picture of a person of a particular symbol, of a brick. Those are the things you keep getting. So when you mark something, you are essentially making progress towards getting victory points or progress towards earning specialty bonuses that only are available to you if you mark it, but you also get resources back. You saw how I put one person down in a space and got another person of a different ability. That's this game. Your turn, you think it might be over really quick. You only have a certain number of resources and people. Nope. You play this, you get this. You play that, you get more stuff. You play this, you get a bonus. You do this, you mark this off. And you're just constantly going. You could spend 10 minutes easily each round just navigating the puzzle of where to put your people and your resources to gain the most stuff back. I haven't even talked about the fort, the walls, the cohorts, but you're going to be fighting in this game, and at the end of every round, you're going to flip over these cards based on the level you are. So in the beginning, you're only going to flip over one card, and that means that you just fight one, and it's kind of still scary. I don't like that. If you're playing on easy, it's one. If you're playing on hard, it's one, but then the next round, it amps up, up, up. So there are even levels of difficulty of playing against the foes who are trying to overrun your castle. And you also get victory points if you defend successfully. So I love that there's this attack. It's a little bit of random luck when you flip a card over. It could come down the center, it could come on the right, it could come on the left. All three of them could come down the center, and you better have some defense in your cohorts. Golly, there's so much here. And yes, it might be overwhelming, but yes, it is fun and it is rewarding. This is the juiciest roll and write game I think I've played, and it is a brain burner. But I like that. I like it so much, and I love that we've got these roll and writes, these games, these designers who say, no, roll and write doesn't necessarily mean a light game. It means a game that uses dice and that has player sheets that you get to mark off individually. And they say, we're going to do something really, really hearty with it. This could be a giant board game with a whole bunch of bits and pieces. No way. You still get the same great game, but you get it here in these player boards. And put together, this is like having a board game in front of you as a player. Everyone has their own mini board game. And I really, really like that. So lots of thumbs up for Hadrian's Wall and for just having an opportunity to play a super juicy roll and write game. Thanks for joining me for these 3 juicy roll and write games. They have absolutely captured my attention, and I seriously can't wait to see what else is on the horizon. But let me tell you, I'm going to be jumping into Hadrian's Wall super soon. Dinosaur Roar and Write I'm going to share with my friends and my family, and Three Sisters is just a really wonderful, delightful gardening roll and write game that is hitting the table very soon. Yay!
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 Yay!